Today, I am finally at the TV series, Tremors, the series. This is, like I said in my review of Tremors 3, that movie was just a backdoor pilot for this. And as such, the first episode is not called Pilot, stranger enough, it just has an episode title. Now, since there's only 13 episodes, I'm going to go into like mini synopsises of each one just to talk about what they're about. But to let you know, I'm going to probably talk a little bit more about the ones I used to have taped before I bought this, because those are the ones that introduced me to the series. And also they're the ones that Sci-Fi normally showed. Okay? The first episode is called Feeding Frenzy. In this episode we're introduced to the new secondary character named Tyler, because I think it was scheduling reasons. The actor who played Desert Jack in 3 was then able to reprise his role, so they replaced him with Tyler. The explanation is that Desert Jack moved away, sold the business to Tyler. Now Tyler has his debts and stuff. And we're also introduced to another new character named Rosalita, who supposedly is the niece of Miguel from 1 and 3. Supposedly because the creators mentioned that if the show had continued, it would have been revealed she was actually an imposter trying to get away from dangerous situations. And also, Bert is returning, and the other returning characters from 3, Mindy, Nancy, and I think Jody is the name of Walter's niece. Alright, they return, but they're played by different actors. I can see why they would do it, but I actually like the actors that they got to do it. Although Jody isn't as funny as she was in part 3. Ass blaster, blast your own damn ass. But the first episode deals with El Blanco, and it turns out that something's causing him to eat a lot, hence the title Feeding Frenzy. And I'm not going to spoil what, but let's just say it involves Melvin, the little turd, as Bert likes to call him. The little turd. And this is one of 2 episodes of the series he's in. The other one is in a later disc, so I'll get to that one later. This is probably one of my favorite episodes in the series, and actually it's a good way to start it. And I just love how they introduce Bert, because El Blanco's going crazy. Tyler's on a car, then we hear something shoot. It's something that Bert made, just only scares El Blanco away. That makes a lot of noise. Then he looks up, and then you see Bert holding it, and the camera pans up, and then you hear the music. Dun 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 dun. Now now now. Now the second episode is called Shriek and Destroy, and this is, and as the title involves shriekers in this farm country area that Tyler and Bert are recruited by the government to go take care of. And also another thing, we're introduced to another new character named Twitchell. While 3 had some government involvement, and they get taken out like not even at the halfway point of the movie. This movie, the show, I mean, they actually have a regular handler with the government named Twitchell, and he's from the Department of the Interior. He works closely with them and makes sure that they don't harm El Blanco. Like he states in the first episode that if Bert were to shoot El Blanco, he'd slap him with I think it was a $400,000 fine or something like that. Well, in this one, he hires them, and he tells Tyler he can have his business at night now, and also I think Bert gets some money for it. Anyway, the Shriekers, this episode shows that if Graboids and Shriekers and stuff had appeared like during the Revolutionary War or Civil War, given if you had enough people in the area, they could have taken care of it. Like you have 30 people, each with a single shot. If they did it in rows, they could do it, because that's what Bert's strategy towards the end is. He even paraphrases that famous line from the Revolutionary War. Don't fire until you see the whites of air. Heat-seeking organs. And then, of course, Twitchell, the Shriekers are coming, the Shriekers are coming. It's just funny. And, of course, Bert gets the best weapon, the blunderbuss. Blast from the Past. This is another Graboid Shrieker related one. Just to let you know, not all the episodes are related to Graboids and Shriekers, which I think is a good thing, but all the episodes of Disc 1 are, in one way or another. This one, the Ass Blaster that Nancy and Mindy sold at the end of 3, someone stole it and then got killed by it and escaped, and it's now back in the valley, so Bert has to help capture it, which is going to be difficult considering that the Ass Blaster will not eat his MREs anymore. He has to make special cooking. And it's also hard because he has just now started his survival classes. So, luckily that does come to be an asset later on. I'm not gonna spoil why. Next one's called Hit and Run. This one just involves some Las Vegas thugs who wanna see El Blanco, and one of them gets eaten. Disc 2 starts with one called Project 412. This is the first episode that introduces the character played by Christopher Lloyd. He is a former government worker who was working on this thing to create they created this thing called Mixmaster. It's kind of like the Tremors counterpart of the ooze from Ninja Turtles, only it is far more potent. Well, the ooze will like mutate you, depending on the continuity, whether it'll just make you more humanoid, or in the case of the animated series, it'll splice you slightly with the last creature you touched. Well, Mixmaster, it can splice many different creatures together, and the title creature, Project 412, is a mixture of a rhino, a scorpion, and I believe a skunk. Something stinky. Anyway, Lloyd's character stole him because the government was shutting down the operation because they had a secret facility out in the valley somewhere. And he goes and hides in this shack with him. Now, the thing, it has the aggressive nature of a rhino, but it also has a carnivorous nature from the scorpion, and I think another creature it's mixed with. Well, anyway, he calms it down with this one cactus, but in the last few years, the cactus has been growing scarce, so he's getting more aggressive until he finally breaks out. And the thing is, they can't count on El Blanco helping him this time because El Blanco can't digest him because he does an enzyme that causes him to throw up. It's kind of like with the Hutts in Star Wars, that the Hutts cannot be eaten by the Sarlacc. It's the same principle. They're undigestible. But of course they eventually come up with a way to get rid of it, and of course Lloyd's character returns in a couple more episodes, mostly involving Mixmaster, because Mixmaster is a subplot of the series that Bert's always trying to figure out why the government chose Perfection Valley and stuff. But of course, since they canceled the series after 13 episodes, it mostly goes nowhere, which I would love, if they ever revived the show, I would love for them to go in that direction, because that's an interesting subplot. Which carries over into the next episode called Ghost Dance, because there's another Mixmaster creature which is ghost-like that sucks the water out of people. And since humans are like 70-80% water, you can imagine it's basically like giving 1,000 steaks to a lion or something. The next episode is another Shrieker-related one called Night of the Shriekers. This is another one of the ones that I watch all the time, along with Feeding Frenzy, Shriek and Destroy and Blast from the Past. Bert is tracing these explosions using his seismograph, and he discovers these government agents working with these Shriekers that they got because they found this graboid that was about to split open. Now, these Shriekers have a collar on them that controls their aggressive nature so they won't attack humans, and they're going to use their infrared vision to find humans, in wrecks. And also, they limit the amount of food they give them so they can't reproduce. Never states if they do this, but I think that if they need more, they'll probably would give them enough to reproduce and automatically put a collar on the baby. But of course, there's a slight problem. They don't have a backup generator for it in case they short out, which comes to be their undoing. And then the few scientists who survive after a lightning storm circuits the collars have to have Bert help them. A little paranoia among friends. This is probably one of my favorite of the new episodes that I actually saw when I got this set. They never played this one. This one involves Twitchell sending Bert and Tyler to a town in New Mexico after reports of what he suspects are graboid attacks, which is what they turn out to be, by the way. But the residents of the town believe it's UFOs, and they stop at nothing to get them out because they believe that they actually are government people. Which, as you know how Bert is, that pisses him off to no end. And I'm not going to spoil what happens at the end, but for most of the episode, he is getting pissed when people are saying government. I do not work for the government. It's just funny as hell. Okay, next one is called Flora or Fauna. This is Bert and Tyler discover a plant-like animal hybrid that shoots off lethal acid and is getting ready to send seeds airborne. I don't remember much about the episode, but I think it might involve Mixmaster. It's an episode I'll have to give another watch because I haven't watched the disc since I got them. Now, the beginning of disc 3 has another graboid one, which this one is an interesting one, and since the graboids are an endangered species, I expected one like that. It's called Graboid Rights. The residents of Perfection find their home under attack by a group of protesters who think El Blanco is being exploited. Now the thing is with this, Mindy is a member of the group, and this is the only episode that she appears in, if I remember correctly, because she was off in college for most of the series. It's because she's involved with the lead protester. They're saying that the residents, using those things that scare him away are causing harm to him, and then when he comes up on the surface sick, kind of like how a graboid is right before they turn into shriekers, they think something is wrong, but it turns out it's not the resident's fault that he's like that. I'm going to leave it at that. Next one is called Water Hazard. This is the second one that Melvin appears in. It's because that something's he has this one water golf course thing out of perfection but close by, and Rosalito wants to go work there, but it turns out he has something in his lagoon that is killing people. It turns out it's a primeval shrimp. It's kind of hinted at it might be the result of Mixmaster, but I don't remember if that's the reason why it's there. It's an interesting episode. The Sounds of Silence. This is another one of those creepy crawly ones where these insects that are wood eating, they start to get a taste for flesh. Now, in these last few episodes, we are introduced to a new character who was a minor character in an earlier episode. I forget which one he was a minor character in, but he was a tourist then. Now he starts to become a resident. He is annoying as hell, but he's funny comic relief. And another thing, Bert is not in the last few episodes. I think the last episode he's in is Graboid Rice. I could be wrong, though. But I think it was because Bert had another thing he had to go shoot, or he was shooting the he had to go shoot the fourth movie, so they wrote him out of the series, sending that he was going, I think he was teaching a class up in the wilds or someplace, which I could see. I could see that being a good reason for Bert to go off and teach, which I hope that they address something like that in the next movie, but I'll get to that. The Key. Now this is the final episode of the series, and it's a continuation of the episode Hit and Run. The people from Las Vegas return to get back something that was on the person of the guy El Blanco ate in that one episode. And of course, the disastrous results. I don't remember much about the episode. Since remember, the ones that I've talked about a lot, I've seen a bunch of times, so I can memorize most of the stuff. But overall, the series is very good. I have to give this series overall a 3.5 out of 5. No, maybe a 3.6 out of 5. It's very entertaining. Remember, that's the series overall. I'm not going to rate each individual episode because I'd have to watch each episode a bunch of times to be able to rate each individual one. But the episodes that I've seen a bunch of times will probably be at least a 4. So the ones I can rate, like Feeding Frenzy, Shriek and Destroy, Blessed from the Past, I'm ignoring that. Night of the Shriekers, those ones all at least have a 4. Telemarketer. All the other ones I can't really rate. Graboid Rights maybe is a 3.5 as well, but overall, I'm going to raise it a rating. I have to say the series overall is probably more like a 3.7, 3.8. Around there, as a whole. Because it's very entertaining, and it pisses me off that they canceled it after 13 episodes. Now, the reason they did that is because this series was replacing another series on Sci-Fi, and they expected the same type of ratings. I think the series was a remake of a previous series or something. But anyway, this had good ratings, but not as good as the series it was replacing. That's why Sci-Fi canceled it. The series that it was replacing had gone on for a bunch of seasons. Sci-Fi. That's why it had the ratings like this. This still had good ratings after only like 10 episodes, and then you cancel it when a couple more left. You should have at least made at least a full season of like 20 episodes at least, but 13. Jesus. But like I said, I really do hope that they revive the series one day. That if the 5th movie is successful, they probably will. Which, one thing though that I hate about the way they released it, besides the fact that there's no special features on the disc. Look at that Graboid. How stupid does that Graboid look? This Graboid does not look threatening at all. It looks like the little hand puppet thing that Jody has in the 3rd movie. You know where this Graboid needs to go? It needs to go to Freddy's Magic Cave.